right, this is day 2 of Born Wild. Today in this video we're going to review chapter 1. I'm going to teach you some words that you should know and you'll write them in your notes. We will learn the names of characters in the book, and then we will read the first part of chapter 2 together. I will tell you the things you need to look for while you're reading independently, and you will finish chapter 2. All right, let's review what you read. In chapter 1, you met Connor, and he is a poor shepherd boy from Trunswick, which is in Jura. So Connor is a servant to the Earl of Trunswick, which is the leader of all of the land, and he has to help his son, Devin Trunswick. Remember his name, he's important. So Connor works for this family because his family is poor, and Connor's dad owes this man money. So Devin and Connor are about the same age. It tells us that they go to the same nectar ceremony because they were born in the same month of the same year. So they turn 11 at the same time. Now, this celebration, this nectar ceremony, is very elaborate because Devin Trunswick is hoping to summon a spirit animal because his dad and his grandfather have all summoned spirit animals. So at the ceremony, Devin does not summon a spirit animal, and he is very upset. And the other girl, Abby, who is the smith's daughter — a smith is like a blacksmith or a silversmith or someone who molds or moves hot metal to shape it. She does not summon a spirit animal either. But when Connor tries the nectar, he does summon a wolf with blue eyes. Now, they talk about the great beasts a lot. So pay attention whenever someone talks about the great beasts, they're going to be giving you more information. And the whole series revolves around the great beasts. They're very important. So the fact that Connor summoned a wolf, it said in the chapter that the species of the great beasts are never summoned. So this was very shocking to all the people because they knew that the wolf, the great beast, there was one that was a wolf. And so he would not be, a wolf is not an animal that people get to summon. So typically Connor is afraid of wolves because he's a shepherd and he must protect his sheep from the wolves. So the next chapter is going to be about Abeka. And Abeka is from Nilo. So find that on your map. Nilo is underneath Jura, down here. And Abeka is from the city right here of Okaihi, right there. And Abeka loves to hunt. She's different from the other girls in her village. So in chapter 2 today, we're going to read about her and her nectar ceremony. In chapter 2, these 6 words will help you understand more about what's going on in the chapter. So the first word is antelope. An antelope is a small type of deer kind of animal that lives on hot, dry plains. So it's very flat and hot and dry. Here are a picture of a male antelope and a female antelope. So Abeka is going to find an antelope. All right, and this is what it looks like. The next word is 11th name day. This is not a real phrase in English. It is made up by the author for this book. But in Abeka's culture, they don't call it your birthday, they call it your name day. So this is her 11th birthday. All right, the next word is game. And in this book, it's not talking about like a game that you play. It's talking about animals that you hunt. And they're usually hunted for food. The next word is drought. Drought is a long period of time where it does not rain. Drought really affects people, especially if they survive on the land. Okay, and the next word is famine. Famine is when there is very little food that can be found or collected or hunted or gathered, and usually it's caused because of a drought. When the crops do not grow or the grass can't grow, the animals can't eat the grass and they die also. And the last word is rain dancer. Now, a rain dancer is a person who is believed by the community to be able to control the rain. So it's considered a powerful person in the community, and they help make sure the rain comes, because in dry places often it does not rain when they need it to. So those words will help you understand what we're reading today. All right, before you read today, I wanted to go over these names of people and places that you're going to run into today when you're reading. So the first one is Abeka. Okay, she is the main person in this chapter. She's one of the 4 main characters in the book. Say Abeka. I should hear you saying it. Abeka. Next, we have Soma. Soma is Abeka's sister. Soma. Then we have Chinwe. Chinwe is a green cloak who comes to help in Abeka's nectar ceremony. All right, say Chinwe. Chinwe. Then we have Pojalo. Pojalo is Abeka's father. He is a leader in her little village. Pojalo. Then the next one is Zarif. Zarif is a man who Abeka meets right after her ceremony. Zarif. Then we have Erdas, which we talked about in the last video, but that's the world that all this book takes place in. And the last word is Uraza. Uraza. Uraza is Abeka's spirit animal. Uraza was one of the great beasts. I will read the first few pages with you. While you are reading, remember to look for these 3 things. Look for more clues about the great beasts. So we learned a tiny bit about the great beasts from Connor's chapter, and we'll keep learning more in each chapter of the book. And the story revolves around the great beasts, so it's important to know about them. Next, we're going to learn, when we're reading, we're looking for how Abeka is different from the other girls in her village and what effect that has on her. And then lastly, we're going to think about what happens at Abeka's nectar ceremony. How is it similar to Connor's, and how is it different? All right, let's begin to read chapter 2. Titled Uraza. Staying low, Abeka stalked through the tall grass, moving at a slow, steady pace. She stepped carefully, as her father had taught her, advancing in silence. Sudden motion or sounds would send her prey running. If this one got away, she wouldn't have time to approach another. The antelope lowered its head to nibble at the grass. It was young, but she knew that it could easily outrun her. If it bounded away, she would return empty-handed. Coming to a standstill, Abeka eased an arrow to the string of her bow. As she pulled it back, the bow creaked. The antelope abruptly looked up. The arrow flew true, skewering the beast's heart and lungs from the side. The antelope staggered only briefly before collapsing. This antelope would matter to Abeka's village. The drought had made food scarce, and since it showed no sign of relenting, every morsel counted. Abeka knelt beside the fallen antelope and spoke in a soft voice. "I'm sorry for taking your life, friend. Our village needs your meat. I got in close and made a clean shot so you wouldn't suffer. Please forgive me." Abeka glanced at the bright sky. The sun had moved more than she had realized. How long had she stalked her prey? Fortunately, she had found game that was small enough to carry. Abeka slung the antelope over her shoulder and started home. The sun glared down at the baked brown plain. The brush was dry and brittle, the shrubs withered and thirsty. A few lonely baobab trees stood in the distance, trunks thick, branches sprawling, blurred by shimmering ripples of heat. Abeka kept her eyes and ears open. People were not the prey of choice for big cats, but that became less certain when food grew scarce. And the big cats were not the only dangerous animals roaming the Nilo and savannah. Anyone who ventured beyond the village palisade took a risk. The farther Abeka walked, the heavier the antelope seemed. But she was tall for her age and had always been strong, and she was excited to show her prize to her father. She tried to ignore the hot sun. In her village, the men normally did the hunting. The women rarely ventured out alone. What a surprise this antelope would be! What a perfect way to commemorate her 11th name day! Her sister Soma might be more beautiful. She might sing and dance better. She might weave better. She might even be a more gifted artisan. But she had never made a kill. Just over a year ago, Soma had presented the village with a beaded tapestry on her 11th name day, depicting herons in flight over a pond. Many had remarked that it was the most impressive work they had seen from a young artist. But could they eat it in a famine? Would the beaded pond cure their thirst? Would the fake herons ease the pains of their hunger? Abeka could not resist a smile. To her knowledge, no child had ever brought game to a name day as a name day gift. Did the village need another decorative jar to hold the water? Her gift would serve a purpose. To avoid being spotted by lookouts, Abeka approached her village stealthily. She entered how she had exited, through the damaged slats in the side of the wall facing the ravine. There was some tricky climbing involved, made no easier by the carcass on her shoulder, but Abeka succeeded. Time was short. Ignoring the stares of her neighbors, Abeka hurried to her home. Like most of the other dwellings in her village, her rendezvous had a round base with stone walls and a conical thatched roof. When she burst inside, she found Zoma waiting, looking gorgeous in an orange wrap and a beaded scarf. Abeka was not bad looking herself, but had long ago lost the contest of beauty to her sister. In any case, she favored more practical clothing and braids that could be tied back. "Abeka," Soma said, "where have you been? Does father know you're back?" "I went hunting," Abeka explained proudly, the antelope still resting on her shoulders. "Alone." "You went outside? Past the gate?" "Where else would I get an antelope?" Soma put a brown hand over her eyes. "Abeka, why must you be so strange? You vanished. Father was worried. You're late for your bonding ritual." "I'll be all right," Abeka assured her sister. "I'll hurry. I'm not fussy. I'm not as fussy as you. Nobody will complain once they see my fine kill." Behind Abeka, the door opened. She turned and looked up as her father, a tall man, lean and muscular, with a shaved head. His eyes were not friendly. "Abeka, Chinwe told me you had returned. I was preparing a group to go search for you." "I wanted to offer a fine name gift," Abeka explained. "I brought home this antelope." Breathing heavily, her father closed his eyes. He could barely keep control of his tone. "Abeka, Today is important. You are late. You are covered in dust and blood. Your disappearance has put the village in an uproar. Have you no sense? Have you no dignity? All right. You're going to continue reading the rest of the chapter independently.